This is section 1.02 of the Unit 1 notes, Making Money. Today I am, as in you are the student, finding gross pay and net pay so that I can determine amounts for gross pay, hourly pay, tips, and commission. I will know I have it when I can solve problems involving hourly pay with or without overtime. The specific tips we're looking at for today's lesson is 2A. Use rates and linear functions to solve problems involving personal finance and budgeting, including compensations and deductions. Before we start, there are a couple of questions that I want y'all to answer in ClassKick if you're following along in the notes in ClassKick while you're watching this video. What do you already know about wages, overtime, salaries, tips, and commission? Type what you know. There's no right or wrong answer. Just try to use your brain only. Do not Google these words. See if you can, from your own memory, describe what they are. And then number 2, what everyday situations have you encountered that involve any of these terms? So think back into your life, your conscious life. What situations did you go through that involved these 5 different words? I want you to type that in the ClassKick notes as well, or just pause the video and just think about those things before we continue on to the rest of the lesson. We will talk about these very shortly. Let's start with salary. Salary is a set amount of money that an employee will earn in a period of time, such as yearly. Most of the time, salary is done yearly. You're going to be given a yearly salary that's then broken up into different pay periods. And it depends on your employer, what they prefer to do. So, for example, you could get paid weekly, meaning 52 times a year for your yearly salary. You could get paid bi-weekly, which is every other week, meaning 26 times a year. Semi-monthly, which is twice per month, 24 times in a year, usually the 1st and 15th of the month. Or you could also get paid monthly, which is 12 times a year. Each one has its own pros and cons. For example, monthly, you get a big old lump sum on once every month, but now you won't get paid until the next month, and you have to make sure you budget all your money correctly in order for your money to last until your next paycheck. For as another example, weekly, you get paid every week, meaning you know you're going to get a new check every week. However, you may not have everything that you need like you do with monthly, and you have to again manage your resources, manage your money in order to save up and afford the next bill or the next expense coming up in the following weeks. So each one has its own pros and cons. Wages are a fixed payment usually earned hourly and typically paid on a daily or weekly basis. So salary is a guaranteed set amount of money that's broken up into different pay periods. It doesn't matter whether you work 16 hours, doesn't matter whether you work 2 hours for that day, you're going to get paid the same amount every single day if you're on a salary. Wages are solely based on the amount of hours that you work for your the amount you make per hour. So if you work 16 hours that day, you're going to get paid for 16 hours that day. If you work 2 hours that day, you're going to get paid for those 2 hours that you worked. So again, salary and wages, they each have their own pros and cons. Salary is more about like guaranteed money regardless of how much you work. Wages is whatever you work is what you will get paid. So again, with wages, if you decide to work 16 hours that day, you're going to get paid 16 for those 16 hours. However, if you don't work hardly any for that day, like let's say 2 hours, you're going to get paid for those 2 hours that you worked. So wages wholly depend on how many hours you work. Salary, you got a fixed income for every single day that you work, or week, whatever your pay period is. Sample pay stub. So whenever you work, you get paid, and employers will send out a pay stub. That pay stub shows you the breakdown of how much you actually worked, how much money you made for your pay period, and what taxes and what deductions are getting taken out of your paycheck to give you what you're actually getting to take home. So there's a few things about this pay stub. We have the hourly rate, which is your hourly wage. We have the number of hours that you worked, which when you multiply those two together, will give you your gross pay before any taxes or deductions are taken out. Gross pay is the amount of money you earned before any taxes and deductions are taken out. Now, after all of that gets taken out, so for example, if you're looking at this pay stub, FICA, which is Medicare and Social Security put together. You have the Medicare tax, Social Security tax, that you're required to pay to the government. You also have the federal tax that you have to pay that's separate from those two things. These two are social programs that you have to pay for. And then the federal income tax is what you pay to the federal government for them to run things. You may also, depending on where you reside in, what state you reside in, have a state income tax. CA for this pay stub is California. So California has its own state income tax that you pay into for their government to buy and run things. Then you may also have insurance. I'm not sure what SDI is in this pay stub, but I'm going to pretend it's insurance. You may also buy into a type of insurance that your employer may require for you to buy in order to keep working, or anything else that may be required for your type of living. So then you have all of that getting taken out of your paycheck. And notice that the gross pay, which is for this example $1,760, gets reduced to $1,362.65. This is what you actually get to take home after everything else gets taken out of. Your deductions for this period are $397.35. So again, net pay is the amount of money you take home after all deductions have been taken out. This is the money you receive on payday. Net pay is sometimes also called take-home pay. We're going to look at a few different problems involving gross pay, and we're also going to talk about overtime pay. You don't need to memorize these formulas. I have them in the following problems that we're fixing to do. However, gross pay without any overtime is the amount of hours worked times the hourly rate. Regular pay is basically our gross pay. Now, gross pay with overtime is your regular pay through the previous formula plus overtime pay. Now, what is overtime pay? It's anything over 40 hours. So once the 40 hours have been hit for your employer for that week, working at your job, then overtime starts to kick in. And anytime overtime kicks in, you get paid more. And specifically, you get paid 1.5 times more than what you would normally get for your hourly rate. So, for example, let's say your wage is $10 an hour. Well, for overtime, that's 1.5 times that hourly rate. So 10, let me use the calculator here. 10 times 1.5 is $15 an hour that you're going to get paid for overtime. Employers typically don't want to do overtime, but if they have to, you're going to get paid more. And the reason why they don't want to do overtime is because they have to pay more than what your base salary calls for. Overtime pay is overtime hours times the overtime pay rate. Again, we'll talk about all these formulas in the examples, but right now we're just going to focus on regular gross pay for this next problem. Calculating gross pay, no overtime. Simply put, take your rate, take the amount of hours you worked, multiply those two together, and that's your gross pay. So it looks like this is a bi-weekly pay stub. And so you're going to multiply 22 times 80 for this example. It's a little hard to see, but if you can see, that's 22 times 80. and they get a total of $1,760 for their gross pay without any overtime. Okay, now let's look at an example. It's a little bit more involved. Example 1, Tommy works 8 hours per day on Fridays and Saturdays each week. He earns $7.25 per hour. What is his gross pay in a week? So, Tommy, we know is, let me change colors for that, works 8 hours per day. So that's, and then we know later on that Tommy only works Fridays and Saturdays. So how many total hours did he work for that week? Well, we just take 8, multiply by 2, and we have 16 total hours that he works each week. Now, what is his wage for this example? We have $7.25 per hour. So we're going to take $7.25, multiply by 16, and then we will get the gross pay for that week. Okay? So 16 times 7.25 is $116. That's how much he made in gross pay for that week. Alternatively, you can just multiply all three of these numbers together. 8 times 2 times 7.25. You'll get the exact same thing, $116. That's it for example 1. You try number 1. Sammy works 7 hours per day from Thursdays through Saturdays each week. He earns $9.50 per hour. What is his gross pay in a week? So if you're on ClassKick, if you're following along with notes while watching this video, please go ahead and pause this video, fill in the blanks, and answer each part all the way up to the final answer. If you need to look at the steps or need to check your answer, feel free to move this box and see what it says. If you don't have ClassKick open, just do this on a piece of paper or in your calculator, whatever. Just try and participate and practice this problem and see if you can figure it out. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on and show y'all how to do this. All right, so the hours he worked per day is 7 hours per day. Number of days he works from Thursday through Saturday, that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days. Hourly rate is $9.50, 9.5. So multiply all that together. 7 times 3 times 9.5 or 9.50 is $199.50. Notice what I just said. My answer is not $199.5. It's $199.50. Because all of our answers, this answer is talking about money, gross pay. And when we talk about money, unless it's otherwise stated, we always round to 2 decimal places. Even if there wasn't any, even if there wasn't a second decimal place, we're going to fill that in with a 0 when we talk about money. That's why you see this answer as $199.50. That's it for you try number 1. Calculate an hourly rate. Let's say we know what our total is, and we know the amount of hours that we worked, but we don't know how much we're making per hour. So, going backwards, instead of finding out gross pay is hours worked times hourly rate, we're going to divide the hours work with the gross pay, and we will get our hourly rate. So, let's say we don't know what the rate is. We're going to take $1,760 divided by the amount of hours that we work. So 1760 divided by 80, we will get 22. What does this mean? This means that our hourly wage is $22 per hour. And that's how you calculate hourly rates. Example 2. If Kira works 36 hours and earns $377.28, what is her hourly rate? I'm going to pretend y'all didn't see this. There we go. So what do we know? We know the total. She earns $377.28. What else do we know? We know that she works for 36 hours. Well, how can we get how much she makes per hour? Look what I just drew. Dollars per hour. We divide these two. Her hourly rate, dollars per hour. So we're going to divide this by 36. Okay, so again, we know the gross pay. We know the total amount of hours that they worked. Divide them. Hourly rate is 377.28 divided by 36. Type that into your calculator. We get $10.48. That's the hourly rate that Kira works per hour. That's it for example 2. You try number 2. Kim worked 6 hours on Thursday, 7 hours on Friday, and 8 hours on Saturday. Her gross pay for all 3 days was $194.25. What was her hourly rate? So, go ahead and pause this video. Try this problem on your own in ClassKick or through your paper, calculator, whatever. See if you can find the final answer, which is the hourly rate. If you're on ClassKick and you need to check your work, check this. Move this box right here to see if you did all the steps correctly. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on and show y'all how to do this. So her gross pay was $194.25. Total hours worked, 6 plus 7 plus 8, which 7 plus 8 is 15. 15 plus 6 should be 21 hours. So now we're going to take these two and divide them in our calculator. 194.25 divided by 21. We get $9.25 as the hourly rate. If we check our work, that's pretty much what we did. And that is the final answer. Kim's hourly wage is $9.25 per hour. Let's talk about overtime pay. If you work more than 40 hours in a week, you're entitled to overtime pay. The general rule for overtime is that employees are entitled to receive 1.5 times their regular wage for each hour worked after 40 hours in a week. So let's look at this example to understand that. Let me cover some of these up so that we can talk and explore as we go. All right, so I have the formulas right here above, but let's just look at the problem. Mary works an hourly rate of $13.50 per hour and worked for 53 hours last week. she earns overtime for hours exceeding 40 hours per week. What is her gross pay last week? So, first off, any number that is over 40 means that, or any amount of hours that you work that's over 40 hours means you're entitled to overtime pay. So we're going to have to split this up into two parts: regular pay and overtime pay. First off, regular pay. We know that of those 53 hours that she worked, 40 of them is regular pay, which means 53 minus 40, we have 13 hours that are overtime. And I'm going to label the 40 as regular pay. 40 is regular, 13 is overtime. So now we know regular is going to have the following. We're going to take 40 hours and multiply by the regular hourly rate, $13.50. So 40 times $13.50 is $540. Okay, so again, $540 is regular pay. Now, for overtime pay, there's two steps to this. First, we need to figure out what her hourly wage will be in overtime pay. So we have to take the $13.50. Well, before that, let's figure out. We already figured out how many hours that she worked overtime. We take 53 minus 40, and we know that she worked 13 hours in overtime. Okay. Now, to find the overtime wage, it's 1.5 times her regular hourly rate. So what we're going to do is take 1.5, multiply with 13.50. And her overtime pay rate is $20.25. So 20.25. Now we're going to multiply these two numbers. 13 times 20.25. Excuse me. And her overtime pay is $263.25. Right here. So now that we have both her regular and her overtime pay, we're going to add those two together to get her gross pay with overtime. So adding those two together, 540 plus 263.25 is $803.25 for that pay period. Or that week, I should say. And that is your final answer for overtime pay. And for this example. Okay, let's go to the next page. You try number 3. I've broken it up just like the example. You need to find the regular pay, gross pay with overtime. Overtime pay, right over here. And then number 3, gross pay with overtime, adding up those two answers. So, if you would like, go ahead and pause the video. Try this problem on your own in ClassKick. Move the box underneath to check your work and see if you did everything correctly. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on and show y'all how to do this. But first, try it out yourself before you hear me do this. Practice is always best, and you learn better by going through the problems, making those mistakes, and then correcting those mistakes as you go. Life is all about mistakes and what you do to learn from them. So, you try number 3. Tom works an hourly rate of $12 per hour and worked 45 hours last week. Since we know, since it's over 40 hours, we know overtime is going to come into play here. He earns overtime pay for hours exceeding 40 hours in a week. What is his gross pay last week? Well, we can do a step here. We can skip a step, and we can figure out how many overtime hours he has by doing 45 minus 40, which is 5. So again, 45 minus 40, we have 5 overtime hours. We know the regular hours worked is going to be 40. We know the hourly rate is $12 per hour. Multiply those two. 40 times 12. 40 times 12 is 480. So regular pay is $480. Now, we already figured out the amount of overtime hours, so now we need to figure out the overtime pay rate, which is regular hourly rate 12 times 1.5. 1.5 times the hourly rate. I believe it should be 18, but let's check. 12 times 1.5 is $18. $18 per hour. Now, multiplying these two right here, 5 times 18, I believe it's 90. 5 times 18, 90, yes. So this is $90 in overtime pay. So now, 480 plus 90 should be $570 altogether for gross pay with overtime. So again, 90 plus 480 is $570. Then we can move the box right here to check, but gives us the exact same thing we just calculated, if you did it correctly. That's it for you try number 3. Tips. Tips are generally a percentage of a service. Tips are generally a percentage of a service. Tip equals the amount of service times the rate of the tip. Always change your percent to a decimal before doing calculations, however. Okay? So situations when you do tips are typically when a service is provided to you and you want to show your appreciation, your gratitude. You tip them a certain percentage. Or if there's no percentage, if it was expected service, sometimes you just want to show gratitude for what they do anyways. So you just give them a certain amount that you know is acceptable. Now, if you paid for a service, typically the tip is a percentage of what you paid for that service. Otherwise, you can give them any amount that you want to. It's up to you. Example 4. In this, for this example, Angel has a great meal at her favorite restaurant. The total bill is $17.50. She wants to leave a 15% tip. How much will the tip be? So, let's cover some of these parts and then reveal them as we go. So 15% tip of the total bill. First thing we need to do is make sure 15% is in its decimal form. So either divide this number by 100 or, using the shortcut, move the decimal place to the left twice. And 50% is 0.15 in its decimal form. Now, 15% of 17.5, remember from 1.01, we multiply those two. 15% of 1750, that means we multiply those two numbers. So type that into your calculator, 17.5 times 0.15. Rounded to 2 decimal places, the tip should be $2.63. $2.63. So sometimes within this question, they also ask what will the total bill be, including the tip. So from our previous part, calculating the tip, which was $2.63, we add that with the $17.50 from the bill. So her total bill, including the tip, will be those two numbers added together. $17.50 plus $2.63. 17.5 plus $2.63 is $20.13 for her total bill that she's going to have to pay for this service. That's it for example 4. Okay, you try number 4. Angel and her friend eat at the same restaurant. This time the total bill is $42.58. They want to leave a 15% tip. How much will the tip be? So calculate that, and then how much will her total bill be including the tip? So then find that total as well. If you need help, just scroll down. If you're doing this on ClassKick, scroll down and look behind this box to check your answers and check your work, see if you're doing everything correctly. So at this time, I would like for y'all to pause the video, try this problem on your own, see if you can figure it out. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on, show y'all how to do this. So again, total bill was $42.58. She wants to leave a 15% tip. So the amount of service is $42.58. The percent tip, again, using either the shortcut or dividing the percent by 100. Decimal form of 15% is 0.15. So this is 0.15. Multiply those two numbers together. 0.15 times 42.58. We get $6.39 if we round to two decimal places. So $6.39. Now, take the tip, and using that number, we're going to answer the next question. How much will her total bill be, including the tip? So the service was $42.58. The tip was $6.39. Her total bill, including the tip, what she ends up paying for everything, 42.58 plus 6.39 is $48.97. Let's check behind the box and make sure we did everything correctly, and yes, we did. That's it for you try number 4. Another example of tips is finding the tip rate. Sometimes we know that, or we just kind of pay out of willy-nilly. We don't really calculate anything, and so we just feel that a certain amount is the right amount to pay. So we want to know what the percentage of that tip was based on the information given. So for example, number 5, Mark received a $10 tip on a meal that cost $70. What percent of the meal cost was the tip? So again, I'm just going to cover some things up and reveal it as we go. Now we know the tip is the amount of the service times the rate of the tip. So to get the rate of the tip, we're going to divide the amount of the service to the other side with the tip to get the following. So we know that the cost is $70, the amount of service. We know the tip is $10. So we're going to set up the equation like this. Now to get the rate of the tip in percentage, we're going to divide 70 into the $10. So 10 divided by 70 is 0.14285, and so on. Let's change this to its percentage form. So we're going to multiply decimal and change it into a percent by multiplying it by 100. And we get about 14% if we were to round. %14 rate of the tip. Okay, that's it. That's it for example 5. We pay amount that based on the money that we're given, and we want to know from there what the percentage is that we paid. So we divide the two, 10 divided by 70, change it into its percent form, and then boom, done. You try number 5. Mark received a $13.50 tip on a meal that cost $90. What percent of the meal cost was the tip? So, again, using that equation, tip equals amount of service times the rate of the tip, we're going to fill in what we know. I almost solved the problem before I got y'all to try it. So, go through the problem, see if you can figure it out on your own, get the final answer, and if you're on ClassKick, you can move this box to check to see if you did everything correctly. So, pause the video, try this on your own. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on and show y'all how to do this. Okay, so we know the dollar amount of the service was $90. We know the tip was $13.50. So you can either put 13.5 or 13.50. Doesn't matter. At least it doesn't matter in our calculations for right now. So now we're going to divide 90 into the other side, and we should get 13.5 divided by 90. Plug that into the calculator. We get 0.15. So 0.15 is our decimal form, and we're going to change this to its percent form by multiplying it by 100. Or you could do the shortcut, move to the right twice to go from decimal to percent. So multiply by 100 or move it twice, and we get 15% as the rate of the tip. Don't forget the percent sign when you're answering this in ClassKick. That's it for you. Try number 5. Commission. Commission is money earned based on making a sale. So the commission equals the amount of sales times the rate of the commission. And again, just as a reminder, always change a percent to a decimal before doing calculations. So, commission, you have a base wage that you're paid per hour, but you get the added bonus of a percentage of all the sales that you make for that day, that week, etc. This applies to people that are in sales like car salesmen, mattress sales, or any other type of furniture sales, anything that involves sales of a product. You may get a commission based on the amount that you sell to people. So calculating pay with commission, just like with overtime, this has got to be broken up into different parts. So I'm going to cover up these parts. And then we will go through them or reveal them as we go through the problem. All right, example number 6. Jim earns a weekly salary of $545 plus 6% commission. Last week, he sold $4,380 worth of products. What is his gross pay? His total pay before taxes. So we know his regular pay for the week is $545. That's his weekly salary. Nothing to calculate there. That's that. However, commission is 6% of sales. Last week, he sold $4,380 worth of products. So he's going to get a 6% commission off of those sales. Now, before we do anything, 6% has got to change into its decimal form, which will be 0.06. Again, you can move the decimal point to the left twice, fill in the 0. Or you can take the percentage, plug it into the calculator, and divide by 100. And you will get the same thing, 0.06. Now, to find the commission, we're going to take the amount of sales, 4380, multiply by the percent of commission in decimal form, which is 0.06. And we will get, so let me type this in, 4380 times 0.06. And we get $262.80 for commission. Now, once we have these, add them together to get our gross pay, total pay, with the commission that he earned. So add 545 plus 262.80. So 262.80 plus 545. And we get $807.80. That's it for example number 6. $807.80 is the total pay with the commission added to from his sales. Okay, you tried number 6. Jim earns a weekly salary of $125 plus 5.5% commission. Last week, he sold $985 worth of products. What is his gross pay? So at this time, I would like for y'all to pause the video, go through each of these steps and fill them out. If you're working through the notes in ClassKick, get your final answer. Move this box to check your work to see if you did everything correctly. So yeah, do that at this moment if you would like to do so. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and solve this problem for y'all. So we know his weekly base salary is $125 per week. His commission is based on a percentage of the sales. Well, how much did he sell for that week? He sold $985. What is the percentage for commission? It's 5.5%. So again, either move the decimal point to the left twice, fill in the 0 to get 0.055, or divide 5.5 by 100 and you'll get the exact same answer, 0.055. Now, multiply those two. So 0.055 times 985. Round to 2 decimal places, we get 54.18. 54.18. Remember, in terms of money, we always round to 2 decimal places unless we're otherwise told. So regular pay is $125 plus 54.18. Add those two together, 54.18 plus 125, and his total gross pay with commission is $179.18. And let me check behind this box, make sure I did this correctly. And yes, we did this correctly. That's it for you try number 6. That's it for 1.02 notes. If y'all have any questions, let me know. Make sure y'all are working through the course and filling out the notes and just practicing for y'all's quizzes. If you, again, y'all have my number, y'all have my email. Just let me know if y'all need anything. I will see y'all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody.